there are a lot of Christians out there who are influenced by this, what we might call a kind of a critical theory mood,
Mhm.
right? This idea that really carves the world up into different groups, primarily the oppressor oppressed categories, those with power, those without, those who are marginalized, and takes those groups and opposes them, and then says this group with power, they are the oppressors, they've exploited people, and it is therefore morally justified to repudiate those people, to look down on those people. And that's where I think some Americans feel like it's okay to get down and be down on our country, to simply criticize it, to not be patriotic because I don't know, we're the big dog in the world. We've exercised a lot of power. We have a lot of power. But you, before we started filming, asked a really good question. Okay, how about other countries? Like, you know, should Italians be enthusiastic and love their country?
Should Italian parents teach their kids to love Italy
Yeah,
and be thankful for Italy?
yeah.
Should
Or
Japanese parents teach their kids to be patriotic and appreciate living in Japan?
Nigerian.
And it
Uh,
doesn't feel controversial to say yes to those.
yeah. And so if you do think the answer is yes to those, but you're uncomfortable with American patriotism, you need to ask yourself why.
Mhm.
What's the rub there? And what we want to say is, hey, a thoughtful patriotism is a good thing, particularly in a world, in a worldview that says all cultures are not the same, and all cultures do not promote good at the same level. I mean, there's this multiculturalism that we've been, soaking in for 20, 30, 40, 50 years that kind of says, hey, all cultures are equally valid. All cultures are equally good. But if we believe in objective moral standards, it's clear there are some cultures that are not as morally good as others.
Mhm.
And there are some cultures where evil is promoted
Mhm.
more than other cultures. Now, that's not to then turn around and say, hey, our culture is perfect. Our culture, American culture, is the Christian culture, because I mean, it's probably problematic to say Christian culture in an unqualified way, because in one sense, depending on how you mean that, there is no Christian culture. Every culture is filled with fallen human beings, and those fallen human beings are going to have sinful patterns, sinful ideas, or values that are going to become embedded in the culture. So there's no perfectly Christian culture. But we would also say, at the same time, there are certain cultures and certain countries that embrace ideas and values that are more consistent with a Christian worldview, with Scripture. If you're listening to this from another country, doing that with your own country and saying, what are the things that we can look at about our country that are good?
Mhm.
And of course, also acknowledging,
And grieving maybe?
grieving the bad things.
Mhm.
Those, we don't have to look. I guess here's the problem that I'm thinking about with the way we talk about our country, the United States, or a lot of the discussion in our culture goes, this way, like, hey, look at the sins, and then that defines us, right? And
Mm.
that's the only way you define it. You look at simply through this lens. And we say, no, actually, I think a Christian worldview would want us to look at both the good and the bad,
Mhm.
and to view it appropriately, but also not to be moral relativists, and to say there are moral standards. And you know what? It's not a problem to argue that the United States or Great Britain or, certain other countries may get closer to that standard of moral goodness than other countries, because of the Christian ideas that are kind of baked into the culture. And now, again, that's not to say that other people in other cultures are less valuable. And that's where the Christian worldview comes in and says, no, you can't say that either, because every human being is made in God's image and has value and dignity. So this is what I love the Christian worldview. It sheds light on everything. It makes sense,
Mhm.
the best sense out of, giving us an account for the way the world really is.